everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Charlene, and today I'm going to be doing a series review on The Appeal by Janice Hallett. So this is a very short series. There's only 2 books in it. There are The Appeal and The Christmas Appeal. And oddly enough, I read them both in January. So kudos to me for actually starting and finishing a series in the same month. If nothing else, it's not a series I'm going to be adding to my I still need to finish this series at the end of the year. So that's a bonus. So one of the things I do periodically on this channel is whenever I finish a series, I will do a full video review of that series and share it with you here. I think this is only the 3rd one that I've done. So I'll have the other 2 linked down in the description below just in case you're curious. But this one is a very short series, so it will probably be a shorter video. If you're not familiar with the series, it is a mystery series told in an epistolary style, primarily emails and text messages. It takes place in the UK. I don't remember exactly where, and I don't know if it's a fictional town or not. It wouldn't surprise me if it is. But we follow a group of people who are part of a community theater group. And we're seen as things are going on in their own lives as things are going on with the play and the different interactions, the different relationships that the people have. And then a mystery always ends up coming up in the case of both of these books. Now, despite being a duology, the first book is a novel, but the second book is a novella. And I'm assuming it's shorter because it was supposed to take place around Christmas time, and most books that take place around Christmas are shorter. Probably because you have a shorter amount of time to read it if you want to read it during the Christmas season. And once again, the cat wants inside. But despite that, the format for both of the books is very similar. We get a lot of text and emails between the various characters starting out to get some background information on who these people are, what's going on at the time, and so on. And the reason we're getting them is because there is a lawyer who is sending these to 2 women who I think are supposed to either be in an internship or they're newer lawyers, something like that. And he's sending it to them because he wants to get their opinion on the case or see if they can see what he's seen. And so that probably takes up about 2/3, maybe closer to 3/4 of the book. And then the last part of the book begins when someone is found dead and we jump into the mystery itself. What happened to this person? Was there foul play involved? If there was, who committed the crime? So that's the general format of the books. So let's go ahead and talk about The Appeal. So in The Appeal, we are very much getting introduced to all of these characters, and there are a lot of them. We do get a list of the cast of characters, so you have an idea of who you're dealing with, who all the characters are, their relationships to each other. But we're following this group of people as they're getting ready to put on a play, I believe in the fall. And there's a new couple who has moved to town, Samantha and Kel, and they are both nurses. And one of the women who's involved in the play invites them to join the company. They do end up joining right before auditions, so they are able to audition. They get parts in the play. And soon after the book begins, the man who is basically heading this theater company tells everyone that his granddaughter has been diagnosed with a brain tumor. Either a brain tumor or brain cancer, but it's a rare type. And there's really nothing in the UK that will work to necessarily cure this type of cancer. But there is an experimental drug that was used in the US, was used successfully, but it's not yet on the market. And they're wanting to see if they can get their holds on this drug just to try it out and see if it works. But it's very expensive. So it follows them as they're trying to raise money for this drug, and they're trying to get the play going. And we have a lot going on with the relationships within each of the families or with different groups of people. Then we get to the mystery part where someone turns up dead. And at that point, we start getting a little bit more information and a little bit more information that the lawyer is giving to these other 2 women to kind of help put pieces of the puzzle together. And the reason this book is called The Appeal is because someone was convicted of killing the person who died. But the lawyer believes they were falsely accused. And so there's an appeal coming up to try to prove that this person didn't commit the crime. And he is sending this information to these other 2 women basically saying, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because if you are, then I think I can make a case out of this. But if I'm the only one seeing it, then maybe that's not what actually happened. So I ended up really enjoying this book. There's so much information you're given at the beginning, and I was trying to fit pieces of the puzzle together pretty much the entire way through. Some of it I did end up being correct about, some of it I wasn't. But one of the things I was nervous about is that I was putting all these pieces together and I would get to the end of the book and it would turn out, no, the answer is really something very bland and boring. That all of these different theories that I had were nowhere near right. And the ending was going to feel kind of anticlimactic. It just wasn't going to live up to what I had in my head. But some of the things I had did end up being correct. I was wrong about who actually committed the crime. I will admit that. I did not get that right. But there were some other things I did figure out, and ultimately I did find the ending to this one very satisfying. And this one, I don't really feel the need to go into spoilers, because I think I can cover my feelings of the book pretty well without going into spoilers. However, for the Christmas appeal, I'm going to have to go into spoilers to really explain some of the issues that I had. So I'm going to talk about the book itself in very general, non-spoilery terms first. Then I will let you know when I'm getting into spoilers, and there will be timestamps down below so you can skip ahead if you don't want to be spoiled. But the Christmas appeal, from what I understand, Janice Hallett was asked to write a Christmas novella. And when she started writing it, the characters from the appeal started coming to mind and really fitting with the story, and so she ended up deciding to go back to those characters to write this book. She did not originally plan for there to be a sequel to the appeal. But in this one, we have the group of players from the first book who are getting ready to put on a Christmas play. However, the Christmas play, I'll put that in quotes, is Jack and the Beanstalk. Not entirely certain why we decided that was a good play to put on at Christmas time, but that's what they went with. And from what I recall, they're basically going to put on the play, then Santa's supposed to come out and give candy to the kids, and, it's this big fun family event. And the plays that they put on are put on at a church, and at least some, if not all of the money they're going to be making from this play are going to go towards paying for a new roof for the church. So again, similar format, we get a lot of the background information on who all these characters are. Then we get a dead body shows up, and we need to figure out what happened. Then we get a little more information from the lawyer, sending it to the same two women as the first book. That gives us extra pieces to the puzzle. However, I didn't care for this book as much as the appeal. And one of the reasons I think I didn't like it as much is because in the appeal, the lawyer gives these two women, it's Femi and Charlotte, he gives them information on this case. And we get some of the answers to the mystery from them as they've put the pieces of the puzzle together. And then they're writing back to the lawyer saying, it looks like this is what happened, and this is what was going on. And he confirms that he has come to the same conclusion. And there is one or two pieces of information that he does have to give them, but he doesn't give them the answer, so to speak. They figure it out themselves. However, in this book, he's giving them this information, and it's not the, are you seeing what I'm seeing? That's not the setup for this one. I think it's supposed to be more of like, here's a mystery, can you figure it out just for fun? I don't know why it's a just for fun thing, but that's kind of how it comes across. And the only way you figure out the mystery is because when he starts sending them a little more information and a little more information after the body is found, the information he sends them has the answer. They don't figure it out themselves. The correspondence we get from people tells us the answer. So that one I felt to be a little bit more of a letdown because it doesn't feel like the type of mystery that the reader can figure out, even though the first book was. And one of the things I will say with this book, or really with the series, is I would recommend reading the appeal first. And then if you want to read the Christmas appeal, go ahead and read it. And the main reason I suggest that is because there are things being referred to that happen in the first book. And you're not going to know what they're talking about if you haven't read the first book. And also, like I said, in the appeal, at the beginning of the book, they list a cast of characters. Here are all of the people who are in the book. The Christmas appeal doesn't do that. So it can be very confusing trying to figure out who all these people are, how they're related to each other, if you haven't read the first book. So that is the main reason I would recommend read the appeal first. Then if you want to read the Christmas appeal, go ahead and read it. Now, I personally didn't care for the Christmas appeal as much as the appeal, but there are other people who very much enjoyed it. So I can talk about why I didn't care for it, but it doesn't mean other people won't. Before I go into spoilers, I will basically say the first book I gave 4.5 stars, and the second book I gave 3 stars, just to kind of give you an idea of how I felt about the books. So there are a couple things I want to talk about, but I will need to go into spoilers on them. So if you don't want to be spoiled for the Christmas appeal, feel free to use the timestamps down below to skip ahead. So the 2 issues that I had with this book, one does kind of relate to the fact that we're given the answer by the lawyer. The other 2 women didn't actually figure it out themselves. But it is the mystery itself. The other part is the little candy mix-up that happened. If you've read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. So unlike in the appeal, where it's someone who is found dead and she's been dead for 24 hours, in this one, it's a body that shows up of a person who's been dead for years. But then I think the fact that it was a person we don't know who this guy is, we don't know who he's related to, we're not even given any information on who he is until we start getting that correspondence from his wife saying, yeah, he was my first husband. Like, up until that point, we have no clue who this person is. Whereas in the first book, when the body is found, we know exactly who it is who died. And then because it's a novella and it's so short, it goes very quickly from he was my husband, he left one night, I had no idea what happened to him, to here's the correspondence between her and her sons, confirming that they're the ones who did it. And not a whole lot of time to speculate on, is what she said accurate? Do we see other correspondence where she's trying to play this off and we're not sure we believe her? There's really not enough time for any of that. So that's why I say it feels like a mystery that the reader can't really solve, because we don't have a lot of the important information until after the body is found. And very soon after we get any information that might help us, we're getting the answer to the mystery. So that's why that part felt like a letdown for me. The other part I didn't care for was what I called the candy mix-up. So they were trying to get candy for the kids. This one lady contacted the one who is currently the head of the theater group. Again, I'm bad with names, so I apologize. And says, my son knows someone, he can get candy very cheap. Although this is in the UK, so she calls it sweets. You can get some sweets very cheap, or at a very good price. And so she said, yeah, sure, that's fine. Have him go ahead and order it. Now, I was expecting it to be that she was going to say, my son can get this very cheap, and then the price was going to be exorbitant, more than you would expect for a good price, and that's it. That's all I was expecting. But that turns out not to be the case. And even as someone who knows nothing about this particular industry, the moment I saw the weight of the candy, like how they were packaged, I knew this was not candy. And it took the characters a long time to figure out between how the candy was packaged, how much it cost, because it was like $1,900, $2,500 if you want to charge it to a credit card, and different things like that. It took the characters way too long to figure out what this actually was, in my opinion. But I also understand she was under a lot of stress because the play was supposed to be going on. However, I still felt like it took longer than it should. But the bigger issue I had with this was at the end of the book, when she starts talking with someone and saying, do you know anyone who would be willing to take this off our hands? Now, I have no idea what UK laws are, but I can tell you right now, if this was in the US and you just passed it on to someone else, not only could you potentially get in trouble for possessing the item, but for distributing the item. She didn't sell it, but she still gave it to someone else. Also, the fact that for the majority of the play, if not the entire play, that stuff was in the hands of a minor. Her son was 14, 15 years old, and he had the candy in his possession. Again, I don't know what UK laws are, but in reality, the smart thing would be to call the police, say, this is what I was given, this is not what I asked for, here's my correspondence, you can see this is not what I thought I was getting. Please take it off my hands, and then if you can provide any information on the person who gave it to you, that helps as well. Although I understand she may not want to get her friend's son in trouble, but she did need candy and she got something else. So, yeah. At that point, a very fine line to walk, but don't just send it on to someone else. That part bothered me a lot. So those are pretty much my thoughts on The Appeal and The Christmas Appeal. If you've read either of these books, let me know what you thought about them down in the comments below. I'd love to keep talking about them. If you've read any other books by Janice Hallett, let me know what you thought about them as well. Because after reading these two, I'd be interested to try more of her novels. But if she comes out with any other novellas, probably not. And if you have any questions about the books that I didn't cover in here, but you'd like to know more about, you can ask them down in the comments as well. And other than that, I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll see you later.